Chapter 13. They stood on opposite sides of the gap, watching each other for a long time. Finally Vint looked down to the street far below. "You remember this place, Rhu?" Rhu nodded. He didn't need to look down. Rhu grimaced at a memory. The screams from the alley below. He remembered it every time he passed this way. The feud between Vint and Rhu was a long one. It started back when they were both in the gangs. Vint was older and working her way up through the ranks. She was a natural leader, a clever planner, and a great roof runner. She took the young Rhu under her wing and taught him how to pick locks and pockets, how to escape by taking to the rooftops. For a time they ran free and fast above the city of yore. Vint was long-limbed and athletic, daring and brave. She had shown Rhu many of the secret pathways and dangerous leaps that he still used to this day. When Rhu left the gangs, Vint had taken it as a personal betrayal. She had made Rhu's life miserable, chasing him down on sight, always catching him, leaving him with a beating and warnings of more to come. So many beatings, so many nights limping home black and blue, curling up in his bed for days, afraid to leave. Hunger always drove him out again, trying to find work, her trying to find him. But one day, Rhu outran her, outleapt her, and Vint fell. Her leg never healed properly. It looked an impossible distance now. The street was far below them. It was lucky Vint had only broken her leg. "I knew you had a gold coin, Rhu," she said with a smirk. She glanced down at the dolls, still squared up on the narrow bridge between them. "Did not know you had him, though." The lean girl then sat down, her bad leg out at an awkward angle. From her pack she pulled out a board and placed it in front of her. She scattered tiles across it. "Do you even know how to use him?" Her fingers moved across the board, and wisps of light filled the nail-headed doll. It surged forward faster than before, and Oni backpedaled under the onslaught. A nail caught his arm and the sackcloth ripped. Oni fell back, his arm limp. Vint laughed. "Get the coin, copperhead." Her doll turned from Oni and regathered the gold piece. It snaked its way back towards Vint. Oni tumbled forward and landed a kick squarely onto its back, sending it sprawling forward, the coin falling into the guttering. Oni picked it up with his free hand and began dragging it back to Rhu. Vint's face darkened, and she began sliding tiles. "Another stubborn one," she muttered. "No!" screamed Rhu. It was too late. Copperhead darted forward as a red light filled him and thrust his spiked hands into Oni's back. The poor doll arched painfully as the nails drove through him. He still managed to roll the coin away. It stopped just out of the reach of Rhu. Oni fell limp as the other doll lifted him, ready to throw him to the streets below. Vint raised her fist in triumph. A mad grin spread across her face. "Break him!" Rhu found the whist board in his hand, the tiles scattering across it. Fear filled him, fear of Vint and the violence that followed her. He always found a way to torment him. Through the tears welling in his eyes, he saw a combination. He played it with shaking hands, 6 tiles sliding almost as one. His board flared as red, blues and greens leapt off, spiraling through the air before plunging into his sagging doll. Oni burst into life, leaping high off the nails. He landed, green light closing the holes in his chest, red light filling his hands. He launched 2 powerful blows that staggered the other doll. Rhu quickly looked back down at his board. It had reset, and he saw more red to unlock. He slid the tiles, and Oni attacked again, knocking Copperhead down. Rhu saw another blue and a green to unlock. Then he panicked, and he fumbled the last 2 tiles. They fizzled as they fell onto the wrong colours. "Get back here, Oni!" screamed Rhu. Vint cursed and began playing her board again. "You can't outrun me, Rhu," she said savagely. Copperhead shook his head as he groggily reared up. Vint was stabbing at her tiles. "Break him! Break him! He's weak and soft!" Oni ran back with the coin, struggling to pull it out of the guttering. "Leave it!" screamed Rhu, half standing. He just wanted to get away. The snake doll had regained his strength and followed, brandishing its nail claws. Again he ripped into Oni, knocking him to the ground. Sackcloth came apart, but still the little doll held on to the coin. Memories flooded Rhu in vivid flashbacks. Boys surrounding him, raining blows down on him as he curled into a tiny ball. Vint laughing, Rhu just wanting to run. Rhu stood, ignoring his board. "Get here now, or I'm going without you." Oni gave one last surge and dived onto the roof. Copperhead was fast behind, claws raised for a deadly strike. Rhu gave a primal, fearful roar and took a running kick at the little snake doll. He connected and sent it into a high arc. It hit the wall on the other side and then plummeted to the street below. There was a brief silence as Vint, Rhu and Oni looked over the edge. Copperhead laid in a broken, scattered heap at the bottom. Vint slowly looked up, her eyes locking on Rhu's. Colours still swirled around her, fizzing out as they failed to find her totem. "Deja vu," said the gang leader finally. "I didn't make you jump, Vint." "You know I wouldn't back out if you made it. Not with everyone watching." Vint eyed the gap. "It was an impossible jump, Rhu. Back then, I did not know how you did it." Rhu again looked at the distance between them. It was well out of his range. He shook his head. All he remembered was a red haze, anger at being chased, fear of another beating. Vint pulled her eyes from the fall. "You know the worst part of that day, Rhu? Worse than even this?" she said, tapping her twisted leg. "I never got the chance to beat you again." She laughed, but it was strained, high-pitched. "I was better than you. When I chased you, I caught you. Every time." Vint shook her head at Rhu, her eyes dark and hard. "And then you cheated and made one impossible jump. And I didn't. No rematch, no second chance. You bet me once, and it stays that way. Forever." The gang leader shook with anger. "That's what burns me up, Rhu. Everyone still talks about that day, how you beat me. But you didn't, did you? You cheated. We both know it." She pointed her cane down at the broken doll. "And now you do it again, the exact same thing." She spat, saliva flecking her chin. "You cheat! You always cheat!" There was madness in her eyes as she raged against Rhu, and then, just as quickly, she calmed. She drew in deep, ragged breaths. Her next words were barely a whisper. "This time I will get my rematch, Rhu. I'll beat you in front of everybody." Rhu stood stunned at the malice in Vint's voice. Finally he crouched down and took the coin off Oni. The doll stood by him, and although small and made of sackcloth, it felt good to have someone by his side. Rhu looked across at the glowering figure, and then at the coin in his hand. He briefly considered trying to appease Vint by tossing the coin across to her, but he knew it wouldn't work. There was an impossible distance between them. Instead he put it in his pocket. The gang leader's eyes narrowed, and she gave a slow nod. The crippled girl looked down to the floor of the alleyway, to her fallen doll. She gathered her board and then turned. With her cane still taking the weight of her bad leg, she limped slowly away, in search of a way down. The end of chapter 13. Thank you for listening, and if you enjoyed that, please leave me a generous tip of 1 like, and please feel free to subscribe as well. I'll see you soon. Bye.